Hi there. This is a quick tour of Featherspec. Featherspec is a set of tools to help you with designing the functionality of your applications. Now we have lots of tools already that help us with the visual design of our applications so that they look good. But Featherspec aims more to help you with the functionality of your application so that you can think through and make sure that you're building apps that are functionally sound and fit for purpose. Now, there are two key pages in Featherspec that you'll be using quite a lot. One is the applications page, and this is where you just manage your list of applications, and for each application you give it a name and a description, and that description is quite useful and important, as we will be seeing later on. And for each application you can start to enter what we call components, like what are the different data types that your application might have, and for each data type what fields it might have and what their relationships with other tables might be. Also what pages your application might have and that sort of thing. Well, you don't actually have to do that here, and in fact it's probably better that you do that in the next page that I'm going to show you. But as a minimum, you do need to give your application a name, of course, and a description. Okay, now here is the application page. So for each application that you want to model in Featherspec, you will have one of these pages. And the first thing that I like to do here is to create a business model canvas for my business. And if you don't know what a business model canvas is, you should look it up. It is a very useful and popular tool for thinking through and noting down what your thoughts are for your business model. Like, who are the target customers, right? What specific customer segments are you targeting? And what value are you offering, or are you proposing to offer them, right? And what key activities will you need to take in order to do so, and much more. So that's a really useful exercise to go through. For each of the diagrams that I'll be showing here, or for most of them at least, it's worth mentioning that there is the almost now obligatory AI assistant to help you with those things. So for each task you can send a request to ChatGPT and it will come back with suggestions. Okay, for each of these also there is a little bit of a description just to help you in case you don't know anything about what that particular model is about, and you can also download an image of the diagram. Okay, next thing I like to do is to validate my idea. Well, I say I like to. I don't actually enjoy validating an idea, but it's something that a lot of developers struggle with, and Featherspec aims to help you with that. It's a critical and essential thing to validate your ideas before you start building, and Featherspec aims to help you do so. And like with everything else in Featherspec, we sort of aim to do it in a manner that is not too overbearing and not too demanding. So it's kind of a lightweight and light touch thing, hence the feather in Featherspec. And with the pitch, what you can do is create a set of slides, and obviously you can add text, you can add images, you can add a YouTube video, but crucially you can also add calls to action. So a call to action can be something like asking the viewer to register to be told when you launch, and that way you build a little bit of an email list. You can ask the viewer to rate your idea, for example, or to give some textual feedback, or even for them to share your pitch on social media. Or you can just send them to another page where you might want to collect more sort of qualitative data, for example. There are several layouts to choose from, as you can see here, and a pitch ends up looking something like this. Obviously you can customize the background color, and the colors of the sort of icons. So, well, the background color is the color of the icons, and you can choose, like I say, different layouts for your pages. Okay, so that's just a really simple but powerful way to get very quick feedback about your idea and to see whether it's worth pursuing. Okay, once you've hopefully validated your idea, you then start to model your application itself. And the first thing that I like to do there is to think through my data model, like what data types will I need to manage and what are the fields for those data types. Now, as I say, you can get help with that from the AI. So you can give it your app's description and you get back some suggestions about what data types you might want to have. But if you've got some experience with this, you are probably going to want to do this yourself. And even with the AI suggestions, you'll probably need to think this through as well. But the key thing here is that you can get an image of that. You can just, once you've entered those data types, the fields and the relationships, you can then generate an entity relationship diagram for your application. And that's just a good visual way to see how things are related. And the whole point of this is to have, at the end of it, a spec that you can work from to build your application. Okay, it's worth mentioning that for this we are using something called mermaid.js, which means that your diagram is actually in textual form, so you can just edit the text here to edit your diagram, and that's really useful for managing it going forward. And you can just create one from scratch rather than generating one if you want. Okay. Next thing that you might want to do, and that I like to do, is to think through what my pages are going to be. Again, you can get the AI to make suggestions, and then for each page that you have, you want to create something called a page definition canvas for it. And a page definition canvas is a description of your page, what you want the page to do, which types of user do you want to use that page, and what data should they be able to manage on that page, and for each data type are you going to allow them to create, read, update or delete items of that type. And you might even want to say whether they can manage lists of that type on the page. And from that you can generate use cases, but also you can add use cases manually. And use cases are just the different things that you want the user to be able to do on the page. And as you can see, you can color code these so that you can visually relate them together. So just by looking at this, I can see that a registered user, only a registered user will be able to create an item, but both registered users and guests can view items, for example. So that's a nice way to visually see what's possible. You can also say what pop-ups you will have on the page and what links you might have into the page and out of the page, and what sort of other components you might have on the page itself. And of course, there's just a general section for any other useful information you might want to record about your page. And this is just a really handy reference. I can't tell you how useful this is when you come to build your page, to be able to look back and refer back to this and say what exactly you thought your page ought to be doing and what you wanted your users to be able to achieve on that page. It's also useful in the next section. This is before you build. You might want to mock up your page, right? Your pages, and you can use the page definition canvas to when you're building the mockups, and together they are really useful when you come to build. Okay, so for the mockups we're using something called Excalidraw, which is a really wonderful tool. I could talk for ages about this, but for now, one thing that I'll mention is that Excalidraw allows you to draw items and then store them in your personal library so that you can reuse them in other drawings. For example, you can also import elements from public libraries that people have put together. Alright, so next thing, once you've done your mockups, you then want to start modeling the behavior of your pages or your application. And for that, we like sequence diagrams. Sequence diagrams are a really useful tool for visualizing the messaging between your app's components, between your user. So what interactions do you want your user to have with a page, for example, and what other interactions that will trigger between the components of your application. So you can do that with a sequence diagram. And again, this uses mermaid.js, so you can just do it in text, but there's a handy form as well up here which has all the components that you added for your app, and you can just add items on the fly to this list as well from here, so that you can quickly add them to your diagram. And for all of these, you can build multiple diagrams for different things in your application. Okay, Mermaid lets you do other types of diagrams, and we support most of them, not quite all, but most of them. So for example, you can do a class diagram, you can do a user journey diagram, there's a requirements diagram that you can do as well. So this area is just for, you know, any sort of general diagrams you want to do that are of the type Mermaid. And of course you can do a good old flow chart to simulate a flow. One thing I should have mentioned with the page mockups is that you can link drawings to each other, so that, you know, say you click on a button and you want that to jump to another drawing, and that way you can simulate a kind of user flow. So we use Excalidraw for drawings, as I say, but you can also do other types of, any sort of drawing. Just sketch out ideas for your application, thoughts that come to mind that you want to sketch out. Like here, you know, like a general architecture or something diagram, you can do that also. Okay, like I said, for each of these drawings you can download them as images, but you can also export them as a whole, either as a Word document or a PDF document. Okay, now the next thing that you might want to do is start to, and this you do all the way through actually, just because you're modeling your application's functionality, you know, the behavior of your application, and of course these are things that you will need to test. So as you do so, as you're modeling, you might just think of tests that you want to note down tests that you will need to do. And you can do that here with test notes, and there's a quick menu to access test notes from here. So wherever you are on this page, you can quickly create a test note. And a test note can be manually created, but they can also be generated. Now remember when we talked about the page definition canvas, and on that page definition canvas we had use cases. Now you can generate a test note from those use cases, and these are examples. So if you've said that a user can create an order on a page, for example, then you'll get a test note created for you. Just to remember, these are just notes for you, or things that you should remember to test. You can also generate a test note from the text of a sequence diagram, and for that we use ChatGPT. So that sequence diagram text will be sent to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will come back with some suggestions for what you might want to test for that scenario that is depicted. Okay, so handy tool, good value add here, because you don't have to manually create everything. It generates some for you, and you can manually add some as well. As I say, you can manage your list of components here, so you don't have to keep jumping back to the applications page. You can do that right here. Another useful thing, simple to-do list, things that you need to remember to do for your application, functionality that you need to build or whatever that you need to just note down. You can put them here and you can mark them as complete when you're done. Okay, I think that was a nice quick whirlwind tour of the application. And there's lots of other there are lots of features behind all of this that are very useful. Featherspec comes with a free 14-day trial, and you don't even need to put down a credit card to avail yourself of that trial. So there's really no reason not to give it a try and see what Featherspec can do for you. If, however, you simply want to get a feel without signing up first, we've got a sort of freebies page that just has a couple of the tools and not full versions of the tools either. But the page definition canvas, for example, without some of the functionality that I mentioned, is here, so you can quickly create one and download it, as well as do a quick drawing. Okay, but as I say, there is that free trial. You might as well take advantage of that. Okay, I'll stop it here. Hopefully that gives you a feel for what's possible with Featherspec, and we hope to see you sign up for a trial soon. Bye.